Well, in mortgage fraud cases, what we're typically looking for are people who have been paying on their home loan and their house was foreclosed anyway, or people who were in a modification, had been paying on their modification and their home was foreclosed on by a bank. And we really scrutinize people's files in order to make sure that they were paying. I mean, we generally don't take cases where a person is in default. We're looking for those people who were paying on their mortgage. Well, there's two types of modifications. So there's a modification that the government has facilitated, and those are making homes affordable, or it's also called a HAMP modification. Those are being offered by loan servicers. And then there is another line of modifications that occur, and those are done by banks individually. The HAMP modifications are generally where we see the most problems. Where you can run into problems with those are where you filled out all the paperwork for a modification, you've been told that you have one after you make 3 modified payments, but the paperwork never comes after you make the 3 modified payments, or the bank then changes its mind after you've made those, any payments in reliance on the modification agreement, so that they're basically pulling the rug out from under you. It's saying that you have a contract when you really don't. Those are some of the common problems that we see when it comes to the modification. Yes. There are people who are making their payments, are trying diligently to make sure that they're paying on time, and yet the bank misappropriates the funds by putting them in the wrong account, putting them in a suspense account, or they escrow a loan they shouldn't be escrowing. So there are lots of problems coming from a bank side that cause people to then struggle to make their mortgages, even though they're doing their best and are technically making all their payments. The banks are having a difficult time keeping up with paperwork, knowing how to look at each person's account and calculate payments and where they should go, whether to principal and interest, how that all works. And that's largely because so many banks are, receiving notes, transferring notes, assigning notes, so it's very difficult for them to figure out what they're supposed to be doing on everyone's loan. So it's very possible in America right now to be paying on your mortgage, to be current on your mortgage, and for a bank to tell you that you're not. This mortgage crisis has prompted all kinds of new litigation, and litigation that is necessary, frankly. Banks are not acting appropriately right now, and they're not being fair to homeowners, and they're rushing to foreclose in many cases, which is devastating, not only to the person who's being foreclosed on, but to neighborhoods, counties, states, cities. So in pushing these cases, since it's a new kind of problem that we're experiencing in America, there are also cases of first impression for courts and judges, and so the only answer generally is to go all the way with them. I mean, we want to see what a jury has to say about what has gone on, and right now they would be the only people who would have things to say about it that would matter in a lot of ways. I mean, we've seen all the settlements with the federal government and state governments, but with all the problems that are coming up in these cases, they're ripe for jury trials. They're really good for jury trials, I think. And I think banks need to know that attorneys are going to take them as far as they can. In terms of looking at the banks that are committing a lot of these problems, they're all the big ones that you think of. The Bank of America, Citi, Chase, PNC. GMAC's in bankruptcy now, but they were troubling. The larger national banks are the ones that are creating a lot of these problems. The banks do hire expensive, high-powered, high-dollared attorneys, absolutely. But Campbell Law, since we have a limited amount of cases that we're willing to take, and we're looking for those facts that are very good, it allows us to work those cases up very diligently, and we work them up hard with the aim being trial. I think all three of us, Eric, John, and I, if we have our option, we would prefer to be in the courtroom. We feel more comfortable in the courtroom, and we feel like our best days in the courtroom. So we work these cases up accordingly. Not to mention that we believe in these cases because people are being taken advantage of with one of the most precious items that they have, and it's their home, where they provide shelter to their family, have stability. And so we don't take these kinds of thefts by banks lightly. They're something we feel passionate about. And we've worked on several cases now pro bono just to get issues in front of appellate and state Supreme Courts so that some of these things can be cleaned up so that homeowners aren't being so trounced upon by banks in the system. We're trying to clean up not only just bank errors, but system errors, because our system in Missouri is not, it's not acclimated to deal with this many foreclosures and this kind of fraud that we see amongst banks.